Okay, so today we're going to talk about the first of the great fighters. We're going to analyze their career and their style. This is going to be on Rocky Marciano. A little bit of background. Rocky Marciano was heavyweight champion who was active from the late 40s, I think from 47 until 55. And he had 6 title defenses. He is the only heavyweight champion to have retired undefeated. He ended his career 49-0, which is, there are others who, like Floyd Mayweather recently said he was retiring, he's 50-0. But it's especially unusual to see a heavyweight do that, just because that division is so, it's hard to remain undefeated when everybody else is so strong and such a hard hitter. Marciano was one of those fighters that, in each era of boxing, there's a fighter or several fighters that are known to be just really hard hitters that sort of make their name that way. Going back to Jack Dempsey, who was probably one of the first exciting heavy hitting champions. And then there was Marciano's era. And then into the 60s, you had people like George Foreman, and then even in the 70s, Ron Lyle and Ernie Shavers. Not all of them ended up being champions. Like Ernie Shavers was a tremendous hitter, highly respected, but he was never the champion. And then into the 80s and 90s, people like Tyson. But what was different about Marciano was that he was 188 pounds at the most, 186, 188. He had a 68-inch reach. That's not a heavyweight. That's a light heavyweight, cruiserweight. That's a relatively small guy. But anybody who fought with him or even felt his punch said he just had a tremendous punch. He hit through you. And he said his hardest fight was the first one against Jersey Joe Walcott. And that was the first of only 2 times he ever got knocked down in his whole career. He never got hurt in a fight. Although in one of his fights, he got his nose literally split open in the center, hanging off of his face, and he just kept fighting and won. Now, talking about he was known as the Brockton Blockbuster, by the way. So he's from Brockton, Massachusetts, which is also where Marvin Hagler was from. Another guy I'm actually going to analyze. I didn't think about this when I signed up for both of them, but they're both from Brockton, Massachusetts. Both very tough fighters. So, since Marciano was a smaller fighter, he had a style that accommodated that. And he also trained all through the year, whether he was getting ready for a fight or not. He was hitting the bag constantly, and he had a 300-pound bag he would just hit to keep up his power. What a lot of people don't realize is before he turned to boxing, he wanted to be a professional baseball player. So he had an arm, a good throwing arm. And if you look at the way he threw his overhand right, you can see like the pro baseball player in him. He hit with his whole body. He was very powerful. And he loved to train. When he got ready for a fight, he would sequester himself, no phone calls from the outside world. He just worked. And so he never got tired, and in all the fights I watched, he never backed up. I never see him back up against anybody. He'd always be moving forward or standing his ground. And he was crafty. He doesn't get the credit for being a crafty boxer, but he actually was quite crafty. He knew how to position himself and not take a bad shot. So if you look, I'll face the camera, if you look at the way a lot of modern boxers fight, they will tend to not square up, they'll turn, but they'll keep their weight centered and their head sort of centered to give themselves the option of moving any direction, okay? To keep their hands up. What Marciano would do is he would move his head off to this side, and he didn't use his jab to set up his cross directly. He would use the jab to find his way into his position. All right, and then he would wait. And he had, because of his position, he had this area right here, which I like to call the kill zone. All right, so from here, he'd move his head over here, and if you threw the right hand, he can move back or he can move under it. All right, he was ready for that. You couldn't reach him with the hook. If you tried to jab him, he would come over with his right hand. And he threw the right hand in 3 different ways. He threw it over and down when he was in. He would throw it straight or slightly wide from here, or he would throw it under. If you saw when he did this, if you came forward and under, he would go boom, and then he could follow up with his hook. And that was, for example, one way they knocked down Archie Moore, which was the second fighter and last fighter in his career that ever knocked him down. Fought a really tough fight against Archie Moore and ended up knocking him out, maybe in the 9th round, I think it was. It was a brutal fight, one of the best just boxing matches I've ever seen. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about that here, where he's back over here like this, and he can use his shoulder to deflect right hands. Then he can come right back. And that's the thing about Marciano. When you combine his position and his conditioning with one more thing, his guts, his willingness to look into your right hand and throw his. All right, that's how he knocked out Jersey Joe Walcott. He backed him up to the fence, to the ropes, and as Walcott was loading up a right hand, he goes, crack, and just knocked him out, and his arm got wrapped around the rope, and he was there like a rag doll. Knocked him out with one punch. And so the only way you can throw a punch like that is if you're willing to move right into his punch and trust yours to land first, or at least land hardest. So the way he threw his right hand was what they called his Suzy Q. All right, so that's what Marciano is known for, is throwing the Suzy Q. The right hand, he can throw it straight, slightly wide, but he throw it over, or he's back here and he throw it under and then follow up. Now what he would do from the inside is he'd like to stand, and this is a product of his era. He himself was a fighter of his era, and other fighters would stand more or less toe-to-toe and fight like as if in a phone book. So they're here like this, and they're hitting, and if he misses, he goes under, and you throw the left, and he comes under like that, and he's ready to throw it again. Or he'll throw it over, boom, and then glance it off with the shoulder, and he comes right back with his. He'd always descend. If he missed, boom, and you throw that, he'd come under it, okay? He wasn't too concerned with keeping his hands up like this. He could let them go down because his shoulder would roll off a lot of those punches, and he would change his level and move his head without moving his feet back, which means he could hit back again. So after Archie Moore lost to Marciano, he later said, a reporter asked him, said, well, what was it like to fight him? He goes, man, that guy hits hard. He goes, it's like I feel like I was held down and hit with a bag of rocks. Because whenever he punches you, it just hits through you. And even when you block with your arms, he would hit through your arms, and he would bust up your arms. Like, he fought like Roland Lastarza. I think he actually broke Roland's forearm, hitting his arm. And also impacted his teeth so hard through the mouthpiece that he lost a lot of his teeth. So there's Marciano, tough fighter, wouldn't back up, threw nice angles, and he had excellent timing, all right? Because he would be out here, you throw whatever you want. He's here, and he would leap in on that, and then he could hit. Off of any punch, he was ready to go under. And hit again, boom, and you throw that, and he's going under, and he's hitting again. Very powerful legs, and a lot of guts.